When it comes to self-help, you want to get right to the point. The workbook from author Alicia Puzzany, Emotional Strength Explained, can help you see results quickly instead of overthinking or operating from a naive, unsure, or people-pleasing state where you look for immediate gratification. With the help of this workbook, you can become stronger emotionally. Whether you're embarking on something new or working through things with yourself or others, understanding what makes you, you is the crucial first step in coming out on top. Your emotions don't have to control your life. You can learn a better way. With this workbook, you'll work toward a stronger, more confident, less needy you. It's for adolescents, teenagers, adults, and seniors. This is an easy-to-use workbook. With just a few minutes each day, you can become stronger and feel better. You can use this workbook over and over through various areas and stages of your life. Life isn't easy. When times get tough, we need to dig deep and utilize our emotional strength. Emotional Strength Explained from author Alicia Puzzany. Available in Kindle and paperback on Amazon and the author's website, aliciapuzzany.com.
You are listening to The Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at briancraigshow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome to the program, everyone. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host, Kathy. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. You know, when Trump was in the White House, everything in America was perfect. I mean, it really was. It was like he was ending the wars, which he did. Economy's booming. I'm not talking about the COVID period. That was at the end. And he did a masterful job with that, by the way. But it was just perfect. We didn't have conflict. The country was at peace. Other countries were at peace. They were afraid of the United States, which was a good thing. And we're just over a year into the Biden regime, and it's a disaster. And CNN ran a story today. There's some big disasters going on, and we're going to talk about some of them today. But there's a couple that I want to talk about. This January 6th committee is a clown show, okay? It's a kangaroo court, but it's also a clown show. And I know what they're saying, Liz Cheney and all the rest. It wasn't supposed to be this way. And some of the things that are coming out of this committee are so pathetic. And you know, they have still a few hundred Capitol breach prisoners locked up at DC's Gitmo and a few other places. And what they thought, and it didn't work out this way because they've had a lot of these cases have been settled, and they're, you know, minor charges, most of them, and very light sentences. Someone, the Walkaway founder, was sentenced to home detention at his home, which I'm sure is very nice for a while, you know. So what they thought would happen with the Capitol breachers is they thought they were going to have 500, maybe 2,000 public trials. And this is what they really thought. And they were going to have CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, all of them. It was going to be MAGA on trial. There were going to be as many as 1,500 to 2,000 trials going on of people being tried for insurrection against the United States government. And the reason that they're holding so many people in jail still at the DC Gitmo, and they have people in other jails too, is because the charges they have against them are so minor, they're not going to get harsh sentences. So they kind of like they like the idea of having these people locked up because it creates an illusion of something,
right?
You know, and it's just not going the way that they wanted to go. And then today, two things came out today. The first one is just completely stupid. They had this story that President Trump clogged up the White House toilets with
it's a new book coming
with two things.
Another book.
With news stories that he did not like about him, and I guess government documents too.
That is just ridiculous.
Actually, there were three. So that's just stupid that all the toilets were clogged up with news articles he didn't like, fake news articles. Like, give me a break.
You know what's happening is they've written so many books about him, and they've made up so much stuff. They're running out of things to make up. Yeah. So they're getting more and more outrageous with their lies.
Yeah. Yeah, and everyone knows what President Trump does with articles in major publications about himself. He frames them and puts them on his wall, right?
Probably has scrapbooks.
Exactly. You've seen his office at Trump Tower. I mean, you know, give me a break.
Well,
put
and
him
then
down the toilet.
they made a big deal in the media about these boxes of papers and documents that he snuck away and held at Mar-a-Lago, and they made such a big deal about it.
They said,
and they went and had a raid, basically, and then took the boxes, and it was nothing.
Well, a
basic,
raid.
common stuff.
The story was yesterday that the National Archives led a raid on Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah.
The National Archives, those are like librarians.
Exactly.
So I don't know what they're talking about.
Well,
I don't know what they're talking about.
It was nothing. They even said in the news, nothing to see here.
Yeah, this January 6th committee, it's a joke. It's really a clown show. And it couldn't happen to nicer people. So
you know why it's a clown show and it's a joke? Because they're not finding anything.
That's why they're making up these stupid things we're talking about.
There's nothing there. And the reason nobody's been charged with insurrection is because nobody has met the requirement for insurrection because an insurrection did not happen. But they keep using that phrase. But this January 6th committee, Liz Cheney, is another person who has allowed her Trump derangement syndrome to destroy her career. She's in a long list of many. And she will not get reelected. Not going to happen because let me tell you something. Trump is going to campaign hard. She is his number one. And he is going to campaign hard in Wyoming and make sure that she will not get reelected. And she is going to find that this kangaroo court is going to be her downfall. Her obsession with Trump. Which I'm sure is being, she wants to make her daddy happy, and I'm sure her father got her involved in all this nonsense. She's all in with the swamp, and she will see the consequences of going after him. And like I said, there's nothing there. If there was something there, we would know by now. It's been like what months, a couple months. We would know something.
Well, a story came out from Liz Cheney today that her husband does a lot of business in China.
There you go.
So then now CNN, now they have a new thing. This is the third or fourth ridiculous story of the day about Trump from CNN. And I'm going to play this to you. And it's total fake news. And I'll tell you why it's fake news after we play some of it. But in the beginning, CNN, they get all dramatic. Listen to this. This is and then I'll tell you what I mean by that. Well, I got to turn the volume up. That would help.
That would help.
Yeah. If I have it muted, you can't hear it.
New and important.
They have the music, the dramatic breaker music. Like that's how serious it is that they brought out the dramatic breaker music. And it's not that Nancy Pelosi is having the Capitol Police break into congressmen's offices. No dramatic music or story on that.
Some new and important breaking news today, reporting on the January 6th committee investigation. Multiple sources now tell CNN there are hours-long gaps in presidential records turned over to the panel. Sources say the White House phone call logs from Insurrection Day are blank. From the time the president returned from his speech on the ellipse until he gave a Rose Garden speech hours later. In between, of course, prior to storm the U.S. Capitol.
Whatever.
Let's get straight up to Capitol Hill. CNN's Ryan Nobles. Ryan, walk us through what we know now and what the big controversy is.
Now, I'll tell you, okay. So there's gaps in the phone log. So what they're implying is these gaps where
they're hiding something.
That's when Trump was talking to, I don't know, Ashley Babbitt, the Proud Boys. I don't know what they think went on during these gaps in the logs.
Maybe he was shoving papers down the toilet
exactly.
at that time.
But I'll tell you the proof that this is fake news, where they made this story up. This is right out of Watergate.
Yeah.
Remember, Richard Nixon had those minutes of dead air on the White House tapes that he, because he recorded everything. And,
right, yeah.
And they've always implied that if we only had what was said during that gap in the Nixon tape, we'd have him. That was like his confession. Let me tell you, he drank a lot, and he probably just hit the wrong button and recorded over part of it by accident.
Right.
And they've made like movies and written books about this gap, and that's where the confession, if he said something that damning on that tape, he would have destroyed the whole tape.
Right.
Not taking a chance that the portion would. But anyway, this is a similar story as to the gap on the Nixon tape. Well, the missing phone logs, there's some gaps there. That was a chaotic day, and maybe they didn't take note of every phone call that went on during that particular time, but that's not in itself a scandal.
Who's running CNN now? I mean, they're still bashing Trump.
It's like on automatic pilot right now.
Well, they need to get somebody else in there for sure.
Yeah.
And take over this train wreck of the network.
They really need to move on. And you're right, Kathy. This January 6th committee, they've interviewed, we don't even know how many witnesses, but a lot, and top name people, and nothing has leaked out, so they've found nothing.
Well, I want to shift to something that's the big news of the day. Well, they've been talking about a lot on the news is inflation, something that affects everybody. It's not the sexiest topic, but it is a top story today, and it's saying that Biden, inflation is at a 40-year high, but Biden insists it's only temporary. The president tries to spin prices soaring by 7.5% in the highest spike since 1982, with Americans having to pay an extra $250 a month.
Yeah.
Well, I know that's a haircut to Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah, that's right.
But for most Americans...
You think with the tip? Probably not, Kathy.
She's probably a really lousy tipper. I can see that.
Right.
5%. But with most Americans, $250 is a hell of a lot of money. Even $50 is a lot of money. I know when you and I first got married, $50 a month would have been a big problem for us if something went up even $50 a month. We were definitely living tight on a budget back then. But most people in this country, a big chunk live paycheck to paycheck, and a $250 increase in your and that's a lot to do with food. I think food is probably one of the biggest. Gas. Mm-hmm. Those two things alone can probably raise your monthly budget a couple $100
easily.
So anyway, the highest spike on consumer goods since February of 1982. So this is, you were talking about with Biden taking over. He's been in office, let's see, February, March. Wait, how long now? A little over a year.
Just over a year, yeah.
A little over a year. And in that time, it shows you how quickly somebody who's completely inept can just destroy everything. Mm-hmm. Now we're living in a country with the highest inflation in 40 years, since I was 12 years old, 40 years ago. Mass crime everywhere. I mean, I saw a video the other day in New York of a lady walking down the street, and a stranger just came up to her and hit her over the head with a baseball bat.
Yeah.
Just minding her own business.
For no reason.
That's New York. You have these liberal DAs. You have these liberal governors and mayors. Their policies do not work. They just don't understand. It's either, I can't decide if it's corruption or just plain stupidity or a combination.
It's a combination.
Because they just don't know what the hell they're doing. Now, a lot of these states, including like Washington and Oregon, all of a sudden are reversing their mask mandates, and they're lifting all of their mask mandates. And Jim Jordan said, which is pretty obvious, he said the reason they're doing that is because they've done internal polling, and they know that they are not going to win re-election in November. He says, Jim Jordan said, Democrats are relaxing COVID mandates because the polls have changed, not the science. So they see the writing on the wall. The question is, after the election, are they going to reinstate these mandates? That's what makes me kind of nervous. Just don't vote Democrat, guys.
Well,
if you want to have a free country, just don't vote blue.
The thing about inflation, and they don't know what they're doing because
no, they don't.
Everyone that is running the country right now has done nothing but work in government all their life, and they're very wealthy through their selling of their public office.
$250 is pocket change to these people.
And
they carry it around in their wallets.
And unlike business people that make their money through business deals, they just get political payoffs and think they're business people. You know what I mean? So they don't know what they're doing, and they're so out of touch with the American people because they're so uber wealthy for all the bribes and everything they've taken that they just don't think that $50 or $250 is really all that much of a difference.
And it's an easy problem.
It's like $5 to them,
right?
Less maybe
less, like a 50 cents.
Yeah.
It's an easy problem to fix. You and hopefully they're starting to do it. You release these ridiculous mandates. You work with the truckers, encourage more. A big part of the problem is the supply chain problem, and the truckers not being able to deliver the goods, and places are not getting the goods in time. And I just saw in the news Chipotle's raising their prices again. That's one of our favorite places to eat. They just raised their prices 2 or 3 months ago. They're raising them again because of the price of the meats.
And I told you, I said, I just don't think it's worth that price to be eating there anymore. And
yeah, we have not been eating there as much.
Kathy and I, it's just the two of us. We have our daughter, but she's in her 20s. She does her own thing. So, we eat out.
For lunch. We eat out for lunch almost every day.
We really only eat, for the most part, one meal a day.
Yeah.
And that's lunch.
Pretty much it.
And a lot of times we go to Chipotle, and I'm looking at the prices now.
I don't cook anymore. Rarely. Once in a while.
Yeah. And I'm looking at the prices now, and I'm thinking, I don't know. And I tell you, this is one of those times when hot dogs are looking good again.
Yeah, those are even really expensive.
And those aren't exactly.
So it's easy to fix these problems. Get the supply chain going. Get the goods and services to the people. And something he'll never do is open up these pipelines because these gas prices affect your grocery store bill too. Because all these truckers. These companies that deliver the stuff, they have to use gas to deliver your meat and chicken and bacon or whatever. So that is going to trickle down to you. So if you have, like Publix, for example, has a fleet of trucks that they deliver food all around Florida and Georgia, right? And even now, I think they're in Tennessee. So if gas prices are $1 more across the board for these huge semis, they got to make up that cost. And they make up the plus. Now people are demanding more money at jobs, which is fine. Places are having to pay more money to get employees. That's another issue. So you have companies that have to pay more in gas. They have to shell out more money to hire people because people are not wanting to go to work right now. All these things affect the prices of goods and services. So open the pipeline. And once Trump's back in, these are two things he's going to do. He's going to open that pipeline again. Day one, I would think, and get the gas prices down. And he's going to work on the supply chain. And those two things would have a huge impact, I think, on your grocery bill.
No doubt about it. Now, I want to take a moment to thank our Patreon supporters for their support of the program. Here we are in our 10th year this year of the Brian Craig Show podcast. I cannot believe it's been 10 years. It'll be 10 years in September 12th.
We were young back then.
Yeah, right. But it's 10 years. And you Patreon supporters out there, and your support has played a large part in that. So thank you to all of our Patreon supporters. And if you would like to support the show, becoming a Patreon supporter is a great way to do that. There is a link in the description of this and every episode. And our top Patreon supporters get a live on-air thank you on every episode. So the names you will hear now are our top Patreon supporters. I want to thank Andrew and Connie, Christine, Gary, ETW, Chuck, D, Pamela, Jacqueline, Rick, Rich, and Nick. Thank you so much, guys. And again, there's a link to our Patreon page if you would like to become a Patreon supporter in the episode description. Now, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, the Biden State Department today said something that was frightening. And also, there's a new coach for the Miami Dolphins that is just the strangest professional football coach I've ever seen. We'll talk a little bit about that and a whole bunch more. Don't go anywhere. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. We'll be back right after this.
Hi, Brian Craig here. I'm in studio with my wife, Kathy, and she's here to tell you about her experience with the MyPillow mattress topper.
Well, as you know, Brian, I was waking up in pain almost every morning for years and years, and we had bought a new mattress not that long ago, but it still was not doing the trick. So I said to you, let's get the MyPillow mattress topper, and let's see if it helps or makes any kind of a difference. And I have to tell you, after sleeping on it just one night, I woke up, no pain. I felt incredible. It made a huge difference for me. And the pain has not returned.
Wow, that's absolutely amazing. Now go to MyPillow.com and order your MyPillow mattress topper and do what Kathy and I did. Use the promo code KANE at checkout, KANE. And this is an incredible deal because with the promo code KANE, you will save 30% off the MyPillow mattress topper and get 2 free MyPillows. But you've got to use the promo code KANE at checkout, KANE. It comes in every size too, from twin all the way up to California King. That's promo code KANE, KANE, at MyPillow.com. The search for the most dangerous book in the world is about to begin. From authors Wayne E. Haley and Sean P. Haley comes An Apology to Lucifer, now available for sale at Barnes & Noble, Amazon, Apple Books, and on the book's official website, anapologytolucifer.com. In An Apology to Lucifer, Father Thomas Morelli thought he knew the story behind Lucifer's fall from heaven. However, upon making the acquaintance of renowned book authenticator Lorenzo Pellegrini and being invited to stay in the opulent Venice villa belonging to Pellegrini's master, Thomas discovers he has only heard part of the story. In Boston, psychoanalyst, best-selling author, and outspoken atheist David David Wright has been tasked to handle the funeral arrangements of his dear friend, Albert Kennedy. What could have driven this controversial exorcist to take his own life? The answer, it seems, is contained in a book that isn't supposed to exist. Joining forces, Lorenza, David, and Thomas must race against time to prevent an ancient battle from reigniting. If you enjoyed the Da Vinci Code, you will love this book, An Apology to Lucifer, the most anticipated supernatural thriller of 2022, is now available at BarnesandNoble.com, Amazon, Apple Books, and on the book's official website, AnApologyToLucifer.com. Order your copy right now. Are you looking for something new, exciting, and unique to decorate your home or office with? Kaleem rugs are colorful, they're functional, and a great way to add personality and functionality to any room. You will find a great selection of Kaleem rugs in the Etsy shop Kaleem. That's K-I-L-I-I-M on Etsy.com. Kaleem is an Egyptian social enterprise and lifestyle brand that aims to revive and sustain local Egyptian crafts and their communities by introducing modern designs to time-honored techniques. Inspired by the artisans they work with and driven by the impact this store has had on weavers in Fowa, a small village situated along the lush Nile Delta. Their craftsmen come from a long line of Kaleem artisans who consider the craft a part of their heritage. The artisans who make their products are preserving the Egyptian cultural heritage by practicing a craft that's been passed down to them generation to generation. The rugs are beautiful and shipped directly to you to enjoy in your home or office. They are a perfect addition to any space. Visit the Etsy shop right now. Etsy.com/shop/Kaleem. K-I-L-I-I-M. Make sure to use the coupon code RADIO for great savings on your purchase. That's coupon code RADIO. Kaleem. Modern living. Handcrafted. Time-honored stories. Etsy.com/shop/Kaleem.
You are listening to The Brian Craig Show podcast. Broadcasting from sunny South Florida, Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at BrianCraigShow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host, Kathy. You know, if you guys were watching me on YouTube today, I don't think you'd noticed this, but I was not feeling very well today. And in the 8 o'clock hour, the third hour of my YouTube live stream this morning, I was a little queasy, like I was kind of shaking side to side. I was holding on to the desk a little bit. That last hour was just, oh my goodness. I don't even really remember it that well. I was that out of it. So if you go and look.
Yeah, because you've forgotten to eat the last 2 days.
Well, I've been very busy the last couple days.
In the last 48 hours, he did eat today. I made him go and we went and got pizza and I said, you're eating a nice meal. But before that, you ate, in 48 hours, you ate one bowl of cereal. And that was it.
Yeah,
and you went to bed
chips.
last night. You had not eaten all day long.
Yeah, I've been busy.
And I said to you, you are going to wake up not feeling so good because you have not had food and you need food.
Yeah, I've never done that
Your body
before.
needs energy. You've never done that, but you've been so busy and preoccupied that you just forget to eat.
And it hit me at 8 o'clock this morning. And
That's why you need a wife.
I was really queasy.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, waddling side to side.
God.
But
lucky you didn't pass out.
But I just, sometimes I get so busy with things, I don't take time to eat or drink or do anything. And it catches up to you.
Yeah, no,
It catches up to you.
And I'm not Brian's mommy. I don't really act like his mother. So, but I do notice if I will notice if you've gone a day or so without eating, I'll be like, hey, have you even had any food? You know? And
it's the Biden inflation. We can't afford food. That's the problem.
So I noticed last night and you were laying in bed and I said, have you eaten it all today? You're like, no. You'd like 2 chips.
Yeah.
2 tortilla chips. And I said, well, you need to eat tomorrow as soon as you come home. We need to go get you a good meal.
Now, before we get back into the issues, there's one other thing that I wanted to see if I can pull this up that I wanted to tell people about that is unrelated to the politics. Let me see if it'll come up here on my iPad. I have started a new Bible study, and it's not coming up on my.
Well, while you're doing that, I'm going to talk about our
iPad.
new T-shirt shop.
Well, let me just finish. Okay, because
then I'll talk about our new T-shirt shop.
Okay,
we have.
I started a new Bible study. Remember a few months back, we were talking about the Bible Is app, which is very good. And the Bible Is app is a free app. It's very good.
It's very good.
And I'm not dissing the Bible Is app, but I kind of got as far as I could get in the Bible Is app. And Kathy had ordered a new Bible, which coincidentally was a Bible that I wanted to get last year, but they were sold out of them, the Ascension Bible.
With Father Mike.
Yeah. Now, this is a Catholic Bible, and what I'm telling you involves Catholics, but you don't have to be Catholic to do this. So, Ascension Presents is on YouTube, and they have a podcast, which is reading the entire Bible in a year.
Yeah,
and
it's good.
Yeah, and it's hosted by a priest. What's his name again?
Father Mike Schmidt.
Father Mike Schmidt.
He's fantastic.
Yeah, and they have this. I don't know if it's a special Bible. I mean, it's a Bible, but it's got some special readings and stuff in it to explain things in it. And they have a podcast,
which is such a great idea.
That I'm way behind because it started at the first of the year, so I'm kind of like behind starting from day one. But it's 365 episodes of the podcast, and each episode's 15 to 18 minutes. I haven't seen one that was over 18 minutes yet. And they read a couple passages of the Bible and
a couple chapters.
Yeah. Then
they talk about it.
Yeah, and explain it to you and do all this. And it's a pretty good Bible study. I just started it the other day. I've only done, I think I'm on day 4. I don't know if I finished day 3 or day 4. It's hard for me to keep track because I'm behind everybody else, like on day 40 or something like that.
I think they're going in order because you've been reading Genesis.
Yeah, we're in Genesis.
And then they do like a psalm.
And it's the whole year. And I'll tell you, these things that are the Bible in a year, everybody goes into those like, oh, it's so good, great. I'll read the whole Bible in a year. And nobody ever finishes those things when you're doing it on your own. They really don't. So what I like about the Ascension Presents podcast is Father Mike reads along with you. So you could just look at it while he's reading, and then he explains it, so it makes it a little easier to understand. And they don't do it they do skip around a little bit. So it's not like page 1, page 2, page 3. So it makes it a little more interesting. You know what I mean?
I like it. The only thing I would say, and I love Father Mike, is sometimes, and I think this is just because he's so intelligent and knowledgeable, priests are really, have like masters and PhDs in theology.
Yeah.
And sometimes when he explains it, he assumes you know a lot to me, like, because sometimes you'll say to me, okay, what is this again? Like,
yeah.
He assumes you, because most Catholics do know the Bible very well.
I do not.
They've grown up learning it their whole life, and saints and all this stuff. So I wish he'd take it more from a layman's point of view and consider people who maybe don't read the Bible every day and haven't grown up. I've been reading the Bible.
I find it pretty easy. I haven't.
No,
been
it's
confused.
easy, but I think sometimes he gets a little. He'll digress a little bit onto other things. And it's a little hard to just keep track of where he's going.
Check it out.
It's still fantastic.
Check it out if you're interested in Bible study, and you can use your Bible. If you don't have a Catholic Bible, they're the same Bible, except Catholic Bible has a few books.
Has 7 more books. So when he gets to those books, you won't be able to do them.
But he'll read to you, and you can listen.
Exactly.
So and
those are great books, by the way.
Yeah, it's on all the podcast platforms.
I would definitely do it. It's good.
And just search Ascension Presents Ascension Bible Study, and it'll come up with Father Mike, who looks like a model. Father Mike,
very handsome dude.
Yeah.
That's all.
I'm a guy, and I'm saying he looks like a model.
Yeah, he literally is like really handsome.
Yeah, so check it out. So I just started doing that. I don't know if I'm on day 3 or 4, but I like it a lot. I don't know if I'll be able to do it every day. Like, I might have to skip a day here or do there if I get to. That's okay.
Absolutely.
It doesn't have to be.
It's meant to go at your own pace.
Yeah.
So that's good. I'm glad you're doing that, Brian.
I've been trying to read the Bible for a long time.
Yeah, you have been.
I have never read the Bible in my entire life, really. So I've been doing these things. So anyway, just check it out, Ascension.
I'm sure God
Bible
understands.
Study. Yeah, and I'm listening to it on Apple Podcasts, but it's on every podcast.
It takes like Brian will do it right when he's just getting ready to go to sleep, and he'll lay there in the bed and play. It's like 20 minutes. And I think that's fantastic. I'm proud of you.
Yeah. All right, now, so let me get back to this. Okay. The State Department today just said something that is insane. And this story is actually what CNN should have busted in on with the breaking music and all this stuff of importance. If this had happened with the Trump administration, the world would be collapsing. The person you're going to hear from in this audio, her name is Wendy Sherman. She's the Deputy Secretary of State. So she's a very senior person. And she's talking about what will happen if Putin invades Ukraine.
If Vladimir Putin takes that action, the consequences will not just be for the Ukrainian people, which will be terrible, but for the world community at large, because Vladimir Putin will say that any autocrat can take action that undermines international principles that Russia has signed up to sovereignty, to territorial integrity, that countries get to choose their own political alliances and their own foreign policy. And added to that, not only will there be dire consequences to the economy of Russia by what we will do, not just the United States, but this extraordinary alliance that exists with all of Europe and the United States and countries around the world. Not only will that create consequences, but Vladimir Putin should understand that body bags will come back to Moscow as well.
Wow, body bags will come back to Moscow. So, here you have the State Department. I know, guys, that's insane. You have the State Department, Deputy Secretary of the State Department, telling Vladimir Putin if he goes into Ukraine, which he believes he's entitled to do, that there will be body bags heading to Moscow. So what does that mean?
That sounds like a threat.
It sounds like a threat to me too. And if this were the Trump administration, the media would be having meltdowns right now that they're instigating a war. This is how wars begin. Are stupid comments like this.
Well, maybe I don't think she said it on accident, Brian.
Well, that was a very calculated
I don't think so
statement. I don't think so either.
She knew exactly what she was doing.
When President Reagan was shot by John Hinckley in the early hours, they didn't know what had happened, and they were worried that Russia was going to take advantage and attack, and they raised the DEFCON level and everything. There's I know, isn't that crazy?
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's true. It's all on tape. And this is how these things start. These countries start saying stupid things like this, and things get escalated. This isn't.
You think it seems almost if they want a war.
Well, like for example,
call me crazy.
When there were situations where we've gone to Afghanistan after 9/11, when things settled down a little bit, President Bush told Afghanistan, if you hand over Osama bin Laden, we will not invade. We will not attack.
That.
He did the same thing in Iraq. He said, if Saddam Hussein and his sons, they fly to a neutral country, they can take all their money, set themselves up somewhere, no war. This is just like we're going to kill your soldiers.
I've never heard anybody say that.
It is some of the most.
Have you?
And to a major power,
never.
He's not talking to. This isn't Grenada they're talking about. This is Putin's Russia. That is some of the most dangerous talk I think I've ever heard from a U.S. senior official, and there's no conflict. With
not yet. That's what they're hoping for.
Well, there's
apparently.
no threat with Afghanistan. We were attacked on 9/11. We thought they had weapons of mass destruction because Bush was a liar, but we thought so. There was a thing. I've never heard an administration threaten a country like this.
Never.
When nothing has happened and there's no threat.
No, nothing's happening at all. I mean, obviously they want something to happen because that was a very threatening statement.
It was,
to me.
it was to ratchet things up. And, like in the first Gulf War in 91, Saddam Hussein was doing a lot of things. He had some hostages. He was messing around with oil tankers, which, that's energy. That's a big deal. So there were things that led up for quite some time. President Bush didn't come and say, "Hey, there's going to be body bags heading to Baghdad."
Incredible.
That is dangerous talk, and let me tell you,
it is. It's stupid.
In Russia, there are still warmongers that are in the Soviet Union mindset over there, and they hear someone from the State Department say that. It makes them nervous, and not nervous in a way, we better back down. It makes them nervous in a way that they might act to fortify their position. Especially because we have this senile old coot that's checked out that they're not afraid of. That woman should be fired, and the entire media should be in a meltdown mode right now, calling on Biden to walk that back. That's a dangerous statement.
He probably told her to say it. He's not going to walk it back. He probably told her to say it.
Man,
I mean, clearly they have an objective here.
We just got out of a 20-year war.
Maybe in his mind, he thinks having a war will make him.
Seem like a man.
We'll make him a hero and we'll lock him in for 2024.
Yeah.
The reasons are political and self-serving, of course.
Well, I told you, no American president has lost re-election in time of war.
Well, he'll be the first.
And he might think that if he starts a war, he'll be reelected.
I want to talk about this thing with MTG, who we love.
Marjorie Taylor Greene.
She made that, you played it this morning. I don't know if you have the soundbite.
I don't have it queued up.
Where she called the Gestapo the Gazpacho.
Yeah.
And it was all over the news this morning on the
they're flipped out about
Daily Mail and all this stuff. Clearly, she said it on purpose to kind of poke fun at the
I think she was trolling.
Capitol Police. Oh, she's always trolling. But I think that's probably a term she uses in her private life as like a joke.
Mm-hmm.
You know how you kind of make up your own little lingo with your friends, your own little funny little sayings. I think she knows the difference between gazpacho and Gestapo. She's not a stupid woman.
Gazpacho is a cold soup, I learned.
It's a cold tomato soup. It's very good.
Cold
you've never
soup?
had it?
No.
No, it's good. I like it, but you wouldn't like it.
Cold soup doesn't sound right to me.
It's Italian, I think. I'm pretty sure.
I thought it was like Mexican.
Oh, maybe it is Mexican, yeah. Gazpacho. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Then you have... I think it's
Hispanic, at least.
Vichyssoise. Isn't that the cold tomato?
I have no idea.
I'm not sure.
I have
Anyway.
no idea.
But yeah, it might be Mexican. But anyway, it's good. I've had it. It's kind of like eating like salsa that's kind of pureed a lot in a way. But anyway, I prefer hot soup, but still, it's good.
Well,
tasty.
yeah, well, they're having...
But clearly she knew. That's not the point.
They're having meltdowns over what she said. They're not even
funny.
concerned with what she was talking about, which was Pelosi breaking in the Republican congressmen's offices.
No, of course not. And we were talking about this at lunch. They found out how, if anybody's interested, how Bob Saget died, which I found really interesting. Is he apparently hit his head at some point, bumped his head at some point either that day, maybe the day before. I know, and they say he had like a brain bleed. So I remember I read that that night that he died, when he went to bed, he told his wife he wasn't feeling well. Mm-hmm. So maybe he was a little dizzy or a little queasy and that he was going to lay down. And he had bumped his head. And I did not know this. 60,000 people die a year from just bumping their head because
Isn't that amazing?
They don't go to the ER and they have like a brain bleed.
Yeah.
And it's an easily fixed problem, apparently. So just news on the little pop culture.
Yeah, I feel bad. I mean, I feel bad about Bob Saget, but I never thought he was talented. I never thought he was funny.
No, but I feel bad that he died. I mean, that's a horrible.
But I feel bad that you don't
even know. You go to bed and boom, you're done.
I feel bad that I never thought he was funny.
No, I don't think he's that funny, but he was good on Full House.
But, yeah.
I didn't really watch that show too much. But anyway, that's just a little.
That's it. When you bump your head, you have to go to the hospital.
Not always, but if you're not feeling
that's
well.
Liam Neeson's wife. Remember, she hit
like a tree or
she
something.
hit her head skiing in Canada.
Yeah, if you bump your head, they said on the news, the doctor, that if you bump your head and you have like symptoms of like a concussion, like you're dizzy, then you need to go get a CAT scan. But he was not feeling well, and maybe he didn't tell his wife that he had bumped his head, because if you had bumped your head and you said, I'm really not feeling well, I would be like, well, we're going to the emergency room just to get your skull checked out. Because,
now,
anyway,
today,
that's awful.
The Miami Dolphins hired a new head coach. They just fired a head coach. And
the Dolphins are a mess.
This guy that they hired, his name is Mike McDaniel. You've got to go online and look at this guy. He is the strangest looking professional football coach I've ever seen, Kathy. I mean, I don't even know how to describe. He looks like he's about 5'1". I've
never seen a football coach. He looks more like a water boy.
He looks, yeah, for a high school team. And he looks like you know what he looks like?
He doesn't even look like a high school coach.
He looks like a jockey.
Yeah,
now he might be 6 feet tall. I don't know, but he looks like a jockey.
I assume coaches used to play football. Even I think Bobby Bowden used to play football back in the day. But this guy, there's no way he doesn't look like a football player.
And he's biracial, okay? His dad is black, his mom is white. So he had his first press conference with the Dolphins today. So, of course,
gosh, they're a mess.
The sports media, it's amazing to me how liberal they are.
I know, that is shocking.
Isn't it really strange?
They're in the media, I guess. Everybody in the media is liberal, except you.
Yeah,
Steve.
I don't understand why. Because you would think the sports media would be like more normal, but they're more liberal than like the regular mainstream media.
It is shocking. They're very woke.
So they start asking this new coach what he identifies as, and all of this, and he had an answer that I thought was a pretty It was a complex answer.
Oh, my goodness.
But it was an interesting answer. But you got to go look at this new Miami Dolphins coach. I have never seen a football coach for Pee Wee football that looks like this guy. I mean, it's just a – I hope he's good. I'd like to see the Miami Dolphins –
They never have good coaches
have a winning team.
Why can't they hire Dan Marino as their coach?
I don't know. But anyway, so he's asked about what he identifies as. His mother's white, his dad's black, and this isn't really something that's he concerns himself with. But the press asked him about it. Listen.
It's been very odd, to tell you the truth. This idea of identifying as something, I think people identify me as something, but I identify as a human being.
This is interesting. This guy's like, he's not even into it. And the press,
it's stupid.
It is stupid. It's like and there's more. We'll play the rest, but I don't think about what I am or my background or my heritage. I'm just a guy, an American. I don't think about it. And this guy doesn't either. But because
maybe he'll surprise us and deliver some wins here.
Yeah, but because he's biracial, the sports media, immediately they go for the race card. There's got to be some statement here about it, and
that's how they think.
And this guy, he's just, I don't even think about those things.
And my dad's black. So whatever you want to call it, I know there's a lot of people with a shared experience, but it doesn't make, it's weird that it comes up because I've just tried to be a good person.
And he seems like a nice guy, but he doesn't have that football coach personality of toughness.
Maybe that's what they need.
This is the new head coach for the Miami Dolphins here.
And I think my background opens my eyes a little bit. I don't have any real experience with racism because, I think you identify me as something close to, I don't know.
One publication identified him as white the other day, so that was they had to retract.
Why does it matter? Like he's saying it shouldn't matter. Yeah. What he's saying is, and not very well, is it should not matter the color of his skin. And he said, I haven't dealt with racism. Yeah. He did not grow up in a home where his parents inundated him with lies and propaganda against the white man.
Yeah.
So he is a normal guy who doesn't have those freaking hangups.
Yeah.
And he is basically saying that should not matter at all.
Yeah.
Good for him.
But I know my mom experienced it when she married my dad. I know my dad experienced it, and that's in my family. But I guess that makes me a human being that can identify with other people's problems.
I mean, that's not.
That's all of us.
He's making fun of the press. He's like, why are you even asking me these things? And I'll tell you,
we'll see how he does.
I don't know anything about him. He looks young, so he looks like a millennial kind of guy. And for a guy that age to have that attitude on race, who's biracial, is like unheard of.
Where did he come from? I mean, he in his? This is the kind of guy that gets picked on in the locker room.
Well, that's why he's the coach
gets like
now.
Jock straps shoved on his head. I mean, this isn't the kind of guy that is an alpha male, but hey, he sounds like a nice guy, and maybe they need somebody with some brains instead of brawn.
Maybe he's got a new style of coaching.
Maybe he's really knows. Maybe he's like a physicist.
A mathematician or something.
Mathematician that really knows the plays and the stats. I mean, that is a big part of the game. That's like a huge part of the game is stats and plays and knowing what team plays what and knowing where to put the play at the. Maybe he's good at that kind of stuff.
I don't know. I'll look him up online.
They're trying something new, clearly.
Okay, it says here, prior to signing with the Dolphins on February 7th, head coach Mike McDaniel served as the offensive coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers.
Okay.
Before his 4 seasons with San Francisco, he had stops at Atlanta, Cleveland, Washington, Houston, and Denver. So he's got a lot of experience.
He has a lot of football experience. Good.
I don't see anyone telling me how old he is, but he and I'd like to know what his whole history is. It's just he just does not look like a football coach.
Do you think they'll ever have a female head coach for the NFL? That would be something.
I don't know.
I wonder why they haven't. They're not that woke. If they're not doing that, I'm sure there's a lot of women that are qualified. A lot of women love football.
Yeah.
But obviously they can't really play. There are some high schools that have girls playing now. I've seen. There are girls that play high school. Playing against high school guys is not like playing against the 300-pound guys in the NFL. Obviously, those guys are massive.
They say he's an offensive guru. They call him an offensive guru.
Yeah, so I'm saying he knows all the stats and plays and all the mechanics behind it, which is important. So
yeah.
we'll see what happens. I remember I met one football player in my life, and I was it was like 1978. I met Larry Zonka outside of a 7-Eleven with my mom, and my mom's a huge Dolphin fan. So we were walking, and she said, "Oh my gosh, that's Larry's." Of course, I knew who he was because I knew the Dolphins.
He looks a little bit different in that picture, but he looks like he plays in some white rap group.
He looks
or something.
like a
white hip hopper,
computer nerd. Yeah. And anyway, so I met Larry Zonka outside of a 7-Eleven. The guy was huge, and his nose was went in 3 different directions. And he had a huge Super Bowl ring. He had the 72 ring because this was in 77, 78. It was pretty cool. That's it. Have you met an NFL player?
Well, I don't follow sports. I
met Bruce, but he's not a football player.
I met Bruce Jenner before he was Caitlyn.
But you said he was big, though.
When I was in high school and I was a bag boy at the grocery store, I don't even remember his name, but one of the guys that played on the Dolphins' undefeated year used to come shopping every week, and I would bag his groceries.
Was he a big guy?
He was huge.
Yeah, they're huge.
And he had a Super Bowl ring on, which was really cool that he'd wear to the grocery store.
It was the 72 ring because I don't think they won one after that.
I was the only person that did not know who he was. His somebody will tell us his last name was Moore.
Okay.
So, and he played with the Dolphins in their undefeated year. So someone in the comments will let us know.
That's pretty
Listen,
cool.
We're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we'll move back to the politics. All right, I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. We'll be back right after this.
Inflation is higher than ever. Families are forced to spend more and more each month. There's no doubt about it. We all need help saving money. The Facebook group Makes Sense is here to help. They offer discounts from some of your favorite stores. They have sneakers, tech, fashion, home goods. They have it all. The discounts are real and fantastic. They're from all the stores you love and shop at. Before you buy anything else, anywhere else, you need to join this group and see the incredible savings for yourself. Join right now. Facebook.com/groups/It Just Makes Sense. Make sure to share the link on all of your social media so your friends can join too. Facebook.com/groups/It Just Makes Sense. Join right now. Start shopping and save money. From author Michelle Dos Santos comes a book that readers have compared to Harry Potter, The Flying Feather, available online at themagicbeanemporium.com. The Flying Feather is a magical novella. It's easy to read for the young and old alike. The Flying Feather prequel is where it all starts. The first installment of this exciting series is about an ordinary boy that receives a rather unusual gift from his grandfather on his 13th birthday. When his grandfather George gives him a feather, he doesn't tell him right away what he has. In fact, inherited. Tommy soon discovers that the old pen is a family heirloom with magical properties. Tommy then has to suspend his disbelief and learn to believe. Author Michelle Dos Santos is a writer who recently started offering copies of her book in her coffee shop, The Magic Bean Emporium. The Flying Feather has been gaining popularity, so now she's looking for a literary agent interested in the next big thing. Her fantastic book, The Flying Feather, from author Michelle Dos Santos. Order your copy right now online at themagicbeanemporium.com. There's a podcast that you will want to add to your playlist, Warriors for Christ. That's the number 4. Warriors for Christ is a Christian podcast providing biblical teaching without the doctrines of man. In other words, they like to let the Bible explain itself. The format includes non-denominational readings and teachings from the Bible. They also have interviews and whatever the Lord puts on their hearts to present. Life in this world can be very stressful and filled with anxieties. Warriors for Christ will give you the biblical information you need to help deal with all life has to bring. Warriors for Christ confronts many false doctrines which are pervasive in this age and what some call the church in a box. And they also offer a full gospel ministry. Find Warriors for Christ on Podomatic, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Player FM, Stitcher, Deezer, Amazon Podcast, and Spotify. Warriors for Christ. Share the podcast on all of your social media so your friends can listen to Warriors for Christ. That's the number 4. Add it to your playlist right now.
You are listening to the Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at briancraigshow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. I saw this article today. It's out of San Francisco. But now keep in mind, San Francisco sends Nancy Pelosi to Congress to be Speaker of the House to run our country, right? Listen to this. They got this homeless guy on the streets of San Francisco. I get paid to be homeless in San Francisco. It takes one phone call. Old school junkie, he's a junkie, says not Hunter Biden, but old school junkie says he moved to the woke city of San Francisco because he gets paid $620 a month. That covers his Amazon Prime. It covers his Netflix. And the cops are like neighbors. His name's James. He's a self-proclaimed junkie living in San Francisco. He said the city's soft on crime policies and government assistance make it easy to be homeless. And, you look at this.
They're enabling. They're enablers.
And, you look at what the Democrats are doing. This thing with the homeless here in Florida, in South Florida, we don't have it anymore because people have gotten tired of it and cleaned it up. But we had a big homeless problem because the weather's so good. Mm-hmm. And the homeless people are like the birds. They come south for the winter.
Yeah.
And
the Canadians.
And in Fort Lauderdale, but they have houses and condos they stay in, the Canadians. The homeless were. And back in the 80s and 90s, there was a park that had so many homeless people living in it that the city put up a tent for them to live in at the city. And I interviewed the mayor of Fort Lauderdale at the time. And I said to the mayor, how can you let all these homeless people in the park? I mean, this is crazy. And what he said to me was so strange. He says, well, the park belongs to the public and the homeless are part of the public.
Yeah, but they don't pay taxes that maintain the park.
Well, you can't move in.
That's ridiculous. What about the families that want to go there?
You can't, exactly. You can't go move in and live there and pee there on the ground and do your drugs. Liberals are really strange. And people say, oh, they're do-gooders.
No.
They're not do-gooders. They're not do-gooders, and they know they're not do-gooders. But I think what it is with liberals, you see this they just think that they're a superior type of human, and that there's two classes of people. There's them, the civilized people, and the rest of the people are like this self-proclaimed junkie, homeless guy on the streets of San Francisco.
Well, they want to create two classes. Speaking of that, this was an article from the other day that I wanted to bring up. Or from yesterday, desperate Venice Beach residents, threatened to sue LA officials for millions for putting their lives at risk by refusing to crack down on growing homeless encampments and unchecked fires. And I remember seeing a story about this. They have a real problem in Venice Beach, one of the most popular beaches in the country. It's been in movies, and they have a lot of it's a nice place. But they have a real homeless problem there, and you could see there's pictures, if you just Google it online, all down the beach, there's tents and homeless people just living, and they interviewed on the news a couple months ago, the people that own businesses there. This has been a problem for a while, and they said, it's destroying my business, there's needles everywhere, this is a health hazard. I mean, think about this. They have an open border, bringing in people with God knows what, Omicron or whatever, COVID, no checking, put them in the country. Now they're allowing needles and homeless people. They're encouraging this kind of behavior. You know what it is? I really think liberals really get off on feeling important. And I think that keeping people down helps them to feel up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it makes them feel empowered and elevated if they keep people downtrodden. They don't want people to be successful like them. They get off on keeping people in a bad situation so they can feel like they're doing something.
You look what's going on with crime. You were showing me during the break another story of a father ripped out of a school board meeting somewhere in America.
Yeah, by a security guard in New York.
Yeah.
He was at a school board meeting. It just happened. It was in the Daily Mail or New York Post. And he was sitting in a school board meeting with no mask. And the security guard, not even a cop, literally yanked him out of his chair. There's a video on New York Post. Pulled him out of the room. Meanwhile, you go to the mall and they'll steal Louis Vuittons and the security guard doesn't do a damn thing. They just stand there and let them steal $2,000 purses and rob the store blind. But this man just sitting there in a meeting in New York, they rip him out. But the thing is, everybody has a phone. And anytime something exciting happens, somebody's going to start recording it. And it's going to go viral, and it's going to be a problem. I don't know who's directing these cops and security guards, but they're out of control.
There was a poll today. These school board meetings are really ticking people off. And they've been going on for a year. They're out of control, beating parents up and everything, bloodied and arresting them at school board meetings. There was a poll out today that shows that the Republicans are not only going to have massive wins in the Congress, but in the state government, like state house and state senate, there's going to be a massive red wave there too.
Huge red wave.
And what you're going to find as well, there's going to be a big change in school boards in this country.
Absolutely.
These school board meetings that have been in the news this year have really woken up a sleeping giant of parents.
Yeah, so it's a good thing.
Who are now going to be voting Republican. And I've been
it's a good thing.
I've been involved in some things with our local school board in the past. And these things you're seeing on TV, that's how school boards are. They have public hearings, which they're required to do, where people talk, but they just sit there and
they're like HOA meetings.
Yeah, they just sit there and wait for you to get done. They don't do anything. They don't care. And the local school boards,
and they use cops and security guards to strong arm you.
Local school boards are just as corrupt as Joe Biden. They just do different things. They're corrupted by the company that sells the computers to the school district, for example.
Yeah, and building contracts and contractors and they give contracts to people for kickbacks.
In D.C., they take money from China. At the school board level, they take money from the janitorial companies and things like this. Yeah. It's just as corrupt. So they don't care about their constituents, and there really should be a requirement to be on the school board. You should be required to be a parent of a child currently enrolled in that school district.
I agree. It's so weird. When I used to teach, there was I taught middle school, and I taught for about 3 years, and they had a PTA, like everybody else, or parent-teacher association. And the woman who was in charge of the PTA, her kids had left the school and were like in college.
Really?
And I remember I said to one of the teachers, "Why the hell is she in charge of the PTA?" Or they're like, "Beats me." I said, "She shouldn't be running the PTA. Her kids don't even," but she liked that power, I guess, and liked to be. You need to move on. When your kids move on, I agree. You should not be in charge of a scout troop or on the school board or in charge of a PTA unless your kids are directly involved. It's weird. It's weird.
And then you would have no problems, because the problems in the school boards are the people on the school boards don't have kids in the school.
They probably don't even have kids.
They're all corrupt politicians that are there to get rich.
A lot of them probably don't even have kids, Brian.
And in our community, the entire school board pretty much was indicted for taking bribes,
Yeah, I mean, remember the one involved with Parkland, the one that was in charge, didn't he get jammed up?
They all get jammed up. They all get jammed up.
Very corrupt.
And it's always been that way. But it's been a big wake-up call, and it's activated a new voter base, which are the parents. And you're
going to see a huge cultural shift, Brian, in November. You're going to see a huge culture shift for the better.
When the midterm election season's done, you're going to see massive flips in the state.
Absolutely.
Another Democrat
at every level.
I just read a few minutes ago, another Democrat governor is not running for re-election. They know they're going to lose.
It is going to be amazing. And I remember my dad told me that last year, because I said, God, everything's so bad. He said, no, this is going to be a good thing. He said, we have to deal with it for a little while. He said, but you are going to see a massive, massive flip in governments across the board. And I think you're right. You're even going to see it on more local levels as well. You're not going to hear about it in the news. Believe me, they're going to try to cover this up. Yeah. But you are going to see things in state levels and congressional levels, all the way up to the Senate and eventually the presidency. Doubt. Of people are absolutely fed up. And these Democratic politicians, what's amazing to me is they don't even they see what's going on. They're doing their internal polling. Now, you do see some politicians, like we talked about with Jim Jordan, that are changing their policies on the masks because they know that they're in trouble. But a lot of politicians, they see it and they don't make any changes. No. They're like, screw you. I'm not going to change my mind. It's like, Yeah,
that's right. Well, listen, we're all out of time, but we will be back next time. I'm Brian, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. We'll talk to you next time.
Real estate is a complex industry that offers almost anything to anyone. Real estate provides opportunities for those interested in active investing, passive sources of income, and careers as realtors and insurance agents. However, it can be intimidating, but it doesn't have to be. Shannon Rob Nett is on a mission to change this perspective. He inspires people to step up to the challenge in his podcast, Rob Nett's Real Estate Rundown. This podcast provides something for everyone in the real estate industry. Shannon Rob Nett is a second-generation builder builder and developer, a fourth-generation realtor, and has over 35 years of experience in real estate. He's sharing his experience and knowledge with listeners that's actionable advice on wholesaling, fix and flips, single-family, multifamily, and more. On RobNet's Real Estate Rundown, you will hear people talk about all facets of the market, including analysis, challenges, management, and successes of investment grade. RobNet's Real Estate Rundown is full of useful information for veteran real estate professionals and anyone looking to enter a career in real estate. RobNet's Real Estate Rundown is available on Apple Podcast, Stitcher, Podchaser, YouTube, Spotify, and your favorite podcast platform. RobNet's Real Estate Rundown with your host, Shannon Robnett. Start listening right now.